Okay, so for me, I'm a little bit different to you. So I love collaborating and fun with music and improvisation and things like that.
What she's trying to say is she's in proper bands and is a professional musician.
Stop it. But so for me, when I actually have the vision and the dream of writing original music and getting a band around me for that, you actually can have a problem with too many cooks in the kitchen. If you don't have a really clear common vision and goal for where this band's heading, you can have way too many cooks in the kitchen. So one of the things is, do any of you in here write music?
Any music writers? Yeah, woo! Good on ya.
Oh, you just got yourself in trouble. So you guys would probably know that starting a song is pretty easy, but finishing a song is really hard. Like, it's like, how am I going to wrap this baby up? And if you have too many people kind of throwing things into the mix, it can get really hard to finish a song. So you're thinking about the vision. Who's the song for? Why am I writing it? What's it about? What instrument needs to come in and here and why? And to keep it really not complicated is also really hard, because then you get egos and all that sort of stuff coming in. So the right mix of people in the band with you to help you pull this together is really mandatory.
And this works in music industry at the next level up. If you get so we organise an event as Band Garage, the Agile Battle of the Bands, or the Battle of the Agile Bands every winter. We have a really clear goal. It is to raise money for a charity, and this takes all of the heat out of that event in terms of rivalries and competition, and there's a sense of purpose to it, which makes that event work at the next level. If you look at all what the artists of Victoria and Australia have done around the bushfires and how quickly they've collaborated and come together to raise money, that's the same, very clear common purpose, putting things right, and people can revolve around that pretty quickly despite being flaky artists.
Excuse me? That's not in the script, no joke. No, so one interesting thing is I've learned a few lessons with being in bands, and we had these amazing musicians. We pulled a band together and we were trying to find our way, and we literally played to the four walls of Bakehouse Studios for an entire year before we did a performance, and shit blew up and the bassist fired the drummer before we even got out there. And that was like mind-blowing. So the interesting things, you have your fun with the bands and you've got your charity gigs and all that sort of stuff is really cool. The intention changes quite quickly as soon as the money side of things can come in, the professional side. Yeah. So all of a sudden your mission's changed. You want to play at the Tote for $50 on a Friday night. All of a sudden the band dynamics change and you're going, mind blown. Band meetings end up becoming a thing.
Can't think of anything worse. Okay, principle number 2.
Yes, okay. So number 2 is chemistry, not culture. So I think you all know what chemistry is about, but right. Nige?
So Culture Amp and I think it's Voop are in the startup hall downstairs. Are not going to love this principle for a starter, is it? So, essentially, it's a thing that exists. It's very hard to describe. So, you're not in a band technically. You're not in a regular band. And is there something that we can see in terms of chemistry as to why that is? Why don't you have a big regular band like this?
Yeah, well, for me, songwriting is a really cathartic experience for me. It's a soul healer, and I can see you nodding over there. I'm like, amen, sister. That's how we kind of get through life. You've all got your stories and you all share a piece of you with people somehow. So that's my way of connecting. And being in a band is really full on, and it's pretty tricky. But I find for me, sitting down and writing about my own experiences on my own time is a lot more enjoyable. So then what I do is I get in rock stars that kind of come and help bring some inspirational ideas, and they'll add to the mix. And then I do have bandmates, but I actually prefer to work with a producer, so some of my bandmates are electronic. So at the moment, producer is working for me more so than a band, but I will pull them together when I need to. But anyway, it's not about me. That solo artist thing is a whole nother talk. So
talk a bit more about chemistry. So chemistry in the moment, how does that play out?
Yep. So we call it chemistry because it's pretty much like you walk into a room at rehearsal and you can vibe off everybody. So if you think about the science of chemistry, adding an ingredient and watching the results, when you walk into a rehearsal room and the chemistry is off, or if I walk in with a producer and the chemistry is off, you just kind of know it's not going to be a successful experience and that you probably might not get as amazing product or song out of this experience than if the chemistry's right. So if we talk about, say, 5 guitarists, that could potentially be a bit interesting and potentially quite difficult to, create a song. I don't know, you know about that?
I can't imagine. What Tam is referring to is I was in a band with 5 guitarists. But I learned a really interesting chemistry lesson from that situation where I noticed really good guitarists who were mentoring and giving me a chance at that point, really pulling back in their behavior in the band, not striking out to show how good they were. And being a curious person, I asked them, why do you do that? Why don't you give it some welly? And they explained to me there's a simple rule of bands, is that you are there to make the other band members look good. And what happens in a circular way, if everyone's behaving to that rule, you'll get your chance. But imagine that happening in a work team.
Yeah.
That would be a pretty cool thing.
Pretty cool. And part of that chemistry is also about the quality and like the solutions of the songs that we create, or the product, if you want to call it that. So different instrumentalists bring different mindsets and different skills and qualities. So it's just like proven in work teams, different ages and genders and diversity and cultures and backgrounds can help with like more complex problem solving. So similar diversity can help create more interesting, better music in bands.
And in some ways, the chemistry is impacted by role clarity, in that someone has, like you were talking about too many cooks in the kitchens. It's not anarchy in bands, is a lesson I've learned. There are roles, there are hierarchies, someone's in charge somewhere. That's probably a new principle.
Yes, okay. So
role clarity rules.
Yeah. So Nige, who do you think has the most important role in a band?
So tricky, because I've observed that to be many different things over time. It's really confusing when you come into a band as a new situation to figure out that hierarchy, whereas probably through a job title or some kind of pay grade or otherwise, you're pretty confident of that walking into a work situation, who's in charge accordingly. So, that it can be a bit chaotic, and it can be quite stereotypical with roles and drummers who don't turn up, jokes turning into drummers who don't turn up.
Totally, sorry, that was a loud laugh. So it is, when we do kind of rehearsals and songwriting, it's vital to know who's bringing that idea into the studio or into the rehearsal space, because they generally will take that idea and run to the end of that song being finished. As we were saying, songs aren't that easy to finish. So the key thing about that is the role clarity. So who's brought the idea in? That's their baby, that's their heart and soul, and they're going to make sure that that's going to sound the way they want. So it doesn't necessarily have to be, the main singer or whatever it is. It's who's bringing in the ideas here. So Jen Clower, she's an interesting artist, and she actually, she runs a course called I Manage My Music, which I've been to. And she's really interesting because she kind of runs her band as a business. So she actually employs her band members, but she takes all the songwriting credits, and the band members will come in and they'll still add ideas and all of that. It seems to work for them. I mean, it's just a different model, but it seems to work. They've been together for a long time.
Yeah. So Tim Rogers, he spoke at a conference which I went to, and he talks about how in a UMI, they've been together over 25 years or more as a band. So it's a very long-running, high-performing, high-output band. How have they held it together? If you know UMI, Tim's the kind of flamboyant, crazy, arm-waving guitarist, songwriter, performer out the front. And he talks about how their roles are incredibly clear in that band, that he is that guy. That's the job he has to do. The one time he was asked to organise the money, the band nearly fell apart. And the bass player organises the rehearsals, the money, the loading in, the agreements, those kind of things. And so another long-running band, Even, which is just doing a 25th anniversary kind of season of tours now. So 25 years as a long-running team. Imagine being in your team for 25 years. Same sort of thing. And Ash Naylor, who's kind of the leader of Even, talks about different roles. So he's Paul Kelly's guitarist. He's the hired guitarist, but in Even, he plays a more kind of leadership and management role, and their dynamic is quite different. So it can change over time as to what your role is, but clarity is incredibly important.
Yeah. Yeah. And Nigel asked me earlier on today if I would write job descriptions for my band members, and I was like, hell no. Like, the thing is, we want to be able to walk into the room and have that chemistry, the role clarity, and let them organically find their feet when you're creating music. But one of the things I do say when we're all together is that you've got to respect each other's ideas and don't play over the top of each other. Because that's the same with my teams at work. Respect each other's ideas and don't talk over or don't play over the top of each other. Give that space for things to start to grow.
Okay, rule number 4.
Yep. Wow, I look sweaty in that one up there. So let's talk about patterns for productivity. So we've been talking about some long-running bands, and like work teams, the stability of the players can impact their productivity. So they make a lot of music. But productivity isn't just exclusive for famous long-running bands. It's actually something that all of us can have. So,
well, I guess we would say this. You're a productivity coach, and I own a company called superproductive.com. So we are mad about productivity, and it's because like feeling unproductive is terrible for your mental health, and it really shows up in a rehearsal room. Like a small creative arts-based team being unproductive is pretty frustrating, and sort of the chemistry gets you in here. And the same in a workspace as well, where you're not making measured progress towards a goal.
Yeah.
It's pretty damn tough.
Yeah, I mean.
So how do we get productivity? What's the key?
Well, so in music and also in technology teams, one of the key things is knowing the patterns. So the importance of rhythm and patterns, like even if we're doing country or pop or jazz or blues, the patterns are really important, Nige.
Yeah, and a bunch of these things start to combine at this stage in the talk. So if you've got role clarity and you've got a keen sense of purpose and you have an understanding of some known patterns, so 12-bar blues and things that have long traditions in music, you're starting to roll towards really productive band life.
Yeah, and what's cool is when patterns become second nature. So, you start to remember the sequence of a song or the structure of a song. And then what happens is when you're comfortable with that, it's like me kind of thinking about this talk that I'm doing. When you start to get comfortable with that and it becomes second nature, you can start building on top of it and things just start to become more kind of free-flowing. You can improvise a bit more.
I think that's one of my frustrations with work teams is we're also ordered and planned in our work, whether we've got agile walls or we've got whatever it is, like documents for design. There's very little just kind of play and see what happens goes on. And that is a key fundamental factor in music, is to keep playing and allow to see what happens as you go by.
Yeah, and I think anyone that does play music in here, there's a gigantic difference, which is kind of interesting with my teams at work and then band life, is that we all kind of practice our instruments on our own. And then we rehearse together as a band, and then we perform together as a band. But in technology teams or in squads, it seems like it's just a problem that I've noticed is perform. And it's quite overwhelming for people, I think. Yeah,
and I learned very early on that the secret to music, if you want to get into it, I got back into it in my 40s, is actually practice. It's kind of what an incredibly disappointing thing that, in fact, it is just repetition and learning your own particular skills. But practice, rehearse, which is a collective thing, and then perform is something that we could probably consider in a workplace. And I've often thought, so I used to work at the REA group, I was the chief inventor there, and we had pretty famous hack days. And I started to realize those hackathons were more about an opportunity to rehearse our teamwork, our skills, a little bit of fun, and be in an environment that was much more akin to the rehearsal room than it ever was in production. I think we gained a lot of kind of mental health benefits and fun from that.
Totally. And patterns in music are really ancient, like the drums, clapping and keeping in time. Like that's like an anchor that we use to keep the rhythm going. And then on top of that, you get your different kind of structures and sequence of the songs. But patterns enable people, like it's like an oral signpost kind of thing. it enables people to perform together in incredibly complex ways. So that's something that's really interesting. So the sequence and structure of the song, the chord progressions and scales and things like that, and then we look at the verse, chorus, bridge, outro kind of sequence. Like, we know it, right? It's a pattern.
Yeah, and this is where the difference comes between good musicians and the rest of us, is that we're sometimes not so good at the patterns and start making shit up. But okay, last principle, let's get to this. Feedback and foldback.
Yes. What's this photo? Oh, yeah.
There you are.
I'm happy with that one.
Music store day, fantastic.
That was record store day, yeah. So and a really important difference between successful bands and maybe not so successful.
And my bands. Yeah, right.
Your bands are successful.
Yeah, right.
It's a clear understanding of who they're there to kind of serve, I guess. So, you know, in tech you talk about your customer. It's your audience, it's your crowd and who you're connecting with. And wow, sometimes some rock star egos can get in the way too, which is interesting. So there's a modern era with, you know, streaming. It's so hard to make a buck when you're streaming your music live. So the live performance and the merchandise is where a lot of the teams are making their money these days.
So you're at like 600,000 Spotify plays, and that's like $60.
I don't know.
Maybe 100.
Something depressing.
Yeah, that's not where the money is. The money is in connecting with audiences now.
Yeah, and that's not what I'm about. So I'm here to talk to you and connect with you guys, and that's how I roll. So I think a lot of bands are finding that that's almost a separate experience, and this is what we can do, like, in a way to connect with you. You can still connect with people online, but yeah.
And some tough choices in that. I see, you know, having observed your career and other family careers, do you keep serving up the same stuff to your customer, or do you go somewhere new? We were talking last night about what the mental state Tones and I must be in right now, having hit with Dance Monkey, how much management pressure she's under right now to repeat that hit.
Yeah.
And that would be a very interesting place to be, and probably not a terribly pleasant one, to be honest.
It is hard, and, you know, like, I guess my tracks online are a bit different to what I'll pull out in a live performance, but the cool thing for me is when I write a new song and I want to gauge what my audience thinks, that's an instant feedback loop. Yeah. So that is quite different. I can tell straight away in a pub or something if there's something that's not connecting with my crowd, and oh my goodness, it can be... You can be sitting there and you just know, it's like, okay, this one might not be working, let's not pull that one out of the bag. We also have foldback speakers down the front when we play gigs, and those send my vocals through the speakers and all the other instruments through the speakers, so I can hear in the hurricane of noise on the stage what everybody's doing. So we can kind of all collaborate and bounce off each other. Yep. So there's a lot of noise in the office. And there is a lot of that, but there's not a lot of foldback, like your own personal foldback and feedback speaker. And a lot of the time, the channels in which this feedback is coming from is not really the channels you want to hear from.
I'd have to say Slack has added a ton of noise to that in an office environment in terms of absorbing your energy and your feedback and taking 19 Slack channels about what's going on in your product. Actually, probably it's more confusing than the kind of sound mix that's on a stage.
Yeah.
And the other advantage you get in a band over a workplace is again, that rehearsal room. So the rehearsal room is the place to work out, to give feedback. It's a little safer to give feedback in a rehearsal room than on stage. There is nothing worse. You would sense it in a moment, even if you're watching a band and the singer's pissed off with the drummer. And you can just see the feedback. I mean, it's such a dysfunctional form of feedback for which, if you want the masterclass on, watch some kind of monster. But it's really vital. It gives a safe space for feedback when you're in perform mode, like work teams. It's really much, much harder to give meaningful feedback.
Yeah, and another similarity is that we do retrospectives, I guess. So we review, a gig, and we hear our stuff and we record it and we listen to it back and we go, how was that? What can we improve? What did our audience or our customers in the tech world, what did they think about that?
Yeah, and that interests me because our friends, the improv people, we're mates with some people called Spark Teamwork, which I recommend, do an amazing masterclass. Now, they reveal the secrets of improv like we're revealing the secrets of bands, right? And one of their absolute secrets is they review everything, and they've trained themselves to be a little more resilient to feedback, because that is essential to their craft. And I thought, not a kind of it's not random, the fact that two performing arts have the same commitment to feedback and adjustment of performance.
Yeah, and there's a bit of ego there as well. For you, it's like, it's your heart and your soul. And to hear that didn't quite resonate with people, like that hurts a lot. And, you know, it's kind of, in the music world, there's a lot of that emotion and feeling that's tied to getting that sort of feedback.
Yeah, your feedback's always brilliant though, right? Like everyone just...
yeah. Okay, so, and the last point is to actively listen more than you play. So,
yeah, I learned that lesson harshly in rehearsal, where I was playing the song perfectly well in my head. The trouble was the rest of the band was following the drummer, and it was very, very noticeable. And so I was taught a second lesson, which is actually your first job is to listen to others and shut up if you haven't quite got it in that rhythm. And it changed my playing and my participation in that team completely. And I think that is something we can take back to work. So what are the 5 things?
Okay, so we've
and they're
got...
right behind you, just as a clue if you're...
Oh, yeah. Oh, there's another banger. My hair's very short there. Okay, so clear common goal. So what's our band trying to do? Then we've got chemistry, not culture.
And I don't think there's going to be like a chemistry amp. So having to figure out how this plays back into your workplace is an interesting challenge.
Yeah, totally. So there's role clarity rules, pattern for productivity, use the patterns, and feedback and foldback. But, you know, be kind when you're kind of, you know, giving and receiving that feedback. It's
so if Metallica had come today, they would have not had to have made that movie.
No.
But,
So now this is the part that's been doing my head in, and after it's exciting, but it's also very high risk.
Because we have 2 minutes left, and we want to do something, have an attempt at something that bands can do that work teams can't do.
Yeah.
So using the 5 rules, we want to attempt to put together a song.
Yeah. So
it's a volunteer thing. We're not going to, but we need, you can see all these instruments here? I'm taking one. We'd like a guitarist, a bass player, and a drummer. But the rules are quite simple. Don't come up here and make a dick of yourself. If you know where the A, the D, and the E are, that's all good. This is not a moment for thinking you can do it. But if there's anyone in the room knows where the A, the D, and the E are on a bass guitar, over there.
Does anyone know?
Or one of these.
Yep.
We want to put together.
Anyone else? Yeah. Okay. So, what's your name? Katie. Okay. A D, and an E. Okay.
Right. So, and my challenge to Tam, so she's the professional here and has been bagging me the whole time, is we're going to give her a song to make up. So all I want is someone's mobile phone open to their last text conversation with their significant other. And Tam will turn that into a blues song. Now, is anyone willing to hand over their phone to Tam? Now,
if you don't, you've all got dodgy messages, I'm sure.
The rules are we've got a clear common goal. I need a teammate on guitar.
Okay, so is there anyone? Yeah? An A, D, and E on guitar? Come on up. Come on up. If you.
No.
Okay. Is there anyone in the room that can play A, D, and E? You? Okay.
Are they volunteering their phone?
Oh,
go and get
yes!
the phone. Oh no,
Sorry.
After all the things.
There's so much going on up here. I'm like, okay, I would love your phone, please. Is it facial recognition or?
Just give us a note on there, Katie.
That was some serious feedback.
Yeah.
Oh, this is cute.
That's the wrong kind of
These
feedback.
are cute.
Can anyone count to 4 on the drums? Come on.
Jump up.
Right,
All right.
You. It's all good.
And we had someone over here. I can count to 4.
How you going? What's volume?
Okay, so Christina.
You're good.
Oh, okay. So we're about to read these text messages. of Christina
Yeah, come
and
on.
partner over here. Aaron? Okay. And then we've got another guitarist over here. Yeah? Perfect. Okay, so Christina, do you know how to do a 4/4 drum beat?
Is that too low, too high?
Yeah? Let's try it.
A,
And
D,
you know
E,
A, D, and E?
12
Okay.
Yep, that little triangle. That's
We're
it.
going to go for a kind of a 12-12. The girl knows how to play. Okay. So,
How's the song? Is there any porn in that message you've got there, Tam? It's all
Okay.
safe for work?
it seems to be. Ooh.
Okay, you got it. Okay, so Tam, you're the product owner.
All right. So I'm the product owner. And I believe these guys are already rolling with
Okay,
it.
let's start with the drums.
So I'm going to put some parameters in place. So as the product owner, I'm going to get, so you are going to count in Christina. But I think, so Nige, you've been,
I'm on lead. This is fantastic. Oh.
so everyone, I guess, Christina, you count in. And then we're just going to rock and roll. Nige, you're
We're
only, you
gonna go.
guys,
My-
we've got
my
roll
riff's
clarity
gonna be
here.
in it, so
And I'm really taken by these text
Let's
messages.
go, because this is a
And I'm
2-minute
just going to
song.
make this shit
2,
up based
4.
on this. Oh, nice. It's all about, yeah. Wow, okay. I think I have left the keys in the house. Don't lock them up.
Starting.
Please respond. All good. I have the keys. Oh, but the back gate, oh, the back gate is unlocked. But I'm leaving now. I'm leaving now. Hey, baby, how's it all going? Hey, baby, I'm still waiting for them to call. But also, we need lemon for the mayo. Okay. And we are singing, I'm singing the Postface Blues. All right, 'cause I'm singing the Postface Blues, yeah. Whoa! And then we got I think I have left the keys at the house. You guys are cute. Hey, baby, can you please bring home food in the fridge at Engine House? Ooh, look what I'm drinking. I'm drinking Postface Kool-Aid. All right, let's wrap it all up. Solo.
Finishing up.